What up, everybody? We're streaming on a Saturday, and we're talking about transfers. We're talking about squad building. We're talking about transfers, and we're talking about rumors, and we're talking about Liam Delap. We're talking about Hugo Ekitike, and we're talking about a whole lot of stuff. Not that long, but the season's over. I'm bored. I figured it'd be fun to do. You guys can come through. We can chat about some stuff. The Liam Delap pod, since that deal is now done. It's gotten the here we go. Since that deal is now done, that's gonna come out on Monday, because the medical is Monday. I'll record it later today, but it's done. Like, all the video and all the data is done for it. I think it's pretty good. I think like it will line up with some people's takes, but won't line up with others about him. But let's talk transfers, because like it's a pretty weird window for Chelsea, where Chelsea had a good season last year. They accomplished many of the things they wanted to do. They hit their target of qualifying for Champions League. They hit winning the Conference League. And now you have this weird thing where your season gets way harder next year because you don't have Conference League, you have Champions League. So much more difficult opponents. It's going to be much more difficult to rotate, all that sort of thing. Much more difficult to keep the squad happy because you're not going to rotate as much. And I think like a really common question is like, what does a good season look like? And what's like the minimum for a good season? Because like, yeah, if Chelsea put up 85 points and win the Champions League, like, yeah, great, obviously. Chelsea win the title, great, obviously. Chelsea put up 80 points. Yeah, we're all pretty happy with that progress. But I think it's more interesting to think about the minimum. There's been some like a lot of buzz this week in terms of transfers. Like Rob Prattley was on EPL Daily. Somebody like recorded all the comments, which I thought was funny because I definitely don't listen to that. Chelsea are out on João Pedro. Fine. I think once you get Delap, I think it was a weird thing of like, hey, what do you do with your attackers when there's like these tweener guys who are available? Bocce the Rock says, I genuinely beg that we don't think our attack is good enough again. Sell all three of Neto, Madueke, Jackson. Send back Sanchez. Start from scratch. Ekitike, Mbeumo, Nico Williams, all needed. I mean, I think it is important that they don't rest on their laurels, particularly in the attack. I think when you look at a team that scored 66 goals or 64 goals in the league or whatever it is, yeah, like that's not a title winning attack. At the same time, like I don't think you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like, yeah, I think the Neto deal was a mistake. I thought Neto had a nice end of the season, but I don't think it was a good deal. And yeah, I don't think you should activate Sancho's clause, with the exception that I will say, if Sancho is willing to come for like legitimately an 80% reduction in wages, like he makes something like £350,000 a week at United. If he was willing to come for like 80,000, I'd probably do that deal. I would definitely not do that deal. Anything clear like that. And then in terms of Madueke and Jackson, I wouldn't move on. I wouldn't be itching to move on either of those guys unless you were getting like a huge deal for them. Like if somebody offered you 80 million for either of them, I'd probably do the deal. Because I think you could get equivalent. I think you can get equivalent to Madueke and Jackson for less than 80 million. So if you were to sell them for 80 and then went and replaced them, I think that'd be fine. In terms of the names you listed, Ekitike, Embuemo, Nico Williams. Like Nico Williams, I'm out. Embuemo, I think, is an interesting player, but is not the player I would go for in this team. And Ekitike, I like a lot. Lord Flack is here. Hope your leg's feeling better. Yep, my surgery is Monday, so we'll see how that goes. Callum Ross Jackson on the left or cash in on him. So like I said, I would sell if you're getting a huge offer, or if he's like one of the things we really don't know, right? Like when we evaluate squads, is like I'm gonna look at the squad very like as footballers and their contributions to things on the football pitch. But like if Jackson is a troublemaker and is like, hey, I'm not going to start as many games this year because we're buying Delap and Ekitike, and he's like, F that, I don't want to be a part of that. Um, then like maybe he is enough of a trouble that you'll just take a moderate profit instead of a huge profit. You know what I mean? I would be surprised if he was like that. I'd also be surprised if Madueke was like that. Um, and let's see. Like I don't think so. So when I think about Jackson, I think he's going to play a lot of striker and he'll play some winger, and that's fine. And he'll play vaguely the same amount of minutes he played this year, which is like sneakily. Jackson did not play as much as I think as people thought, because Jackson is he only played 25 90s this year. And like there's suspensions in there, there's injuries in there. Like he misses 2 games at the end of the season. He basically 2.5 games because of the red card. He has the injury in the middle. Like he did not play that much this year. So I would suspect that he would play probably 25 90s again. I think if I do all comps, it's probably like 27. Yeah, 27. I'd probably expect something similar next year. 27. He doesn't play every game. And I think that's fine. Uh, what do we got? Hussein Carr, make top four again, but less dramatic. Quarterfinal Champions League, good run in the FA Cup. Yeah, to me, like the bar for this is fine is like Chelsea have basically the same season as this year, but with a Champions League knockout run. Like you win a round in the Champions League, and I think that's a fine place. But a lot of it depends on the window, right? Like if Chelsea have a bad window where they move on from some of their good players for financial reasons, or uh they buy like I don't know Dusan Vlahovic for 85 million, then I'm like, no, this is gonna be worse. So we'll see. Joe Tillett, always must live. Nice to see you, dude. Um, will these streams be weekly now the business is getting done before Club World Cup? I don't know about weekly, but I'm gonna try and do them during the Club World Cup every now and then. The games are like weirdly spaced for Club World Cup, but yeah, I'm gonna do them. I'm gonna do them every once in a while. Elliot Sherman, area man, tears ACL, taking Weller in victory lap, claims injury was from Sunday League. Man, my injury was like in April, so a while ago. Um, I worry Thomas Wilkinson. I see. Worry Jackson's reputation may affect other teams putting in a big bid for him, regardless of his actual ability. You know, I don't. I think it will. I think it will affect the price, but I don't think it will affect the amount of teams interested. Like if, for example, Chelsea bought Delap and Ekitike and we're like, okay, we're gonna sell Jackson. I think Newcastle and Liverpool would try to buy him very quickly, and would pay like good fees, not huge fees, but good fees. Andy, what do I think about Xavi Simons? So Javi Simons, for those unaware, has put up gargantuan numbers in the Bundesliga last year. This year, much more pedestrian. Still good, but much more pedestrian. Um, I believe he's still owned by PSG, so there's like a weird thing about what his wages are. I think he's good. I don't think he's what this team needs, so I'm not really interested. To what extent is the defensive solidity attributable to inverting fullback? Somewhat. Somewhat. I don't want to spend too much time talking about it though, because I think there's going to be some like interesting tactical conversations when the window is over, because then we know who the players are. Do I think if they sign Leao, this will incentivize Maresca to use a 3-man midfield? And Bocce the Rocks is how much do you think we could get combined for a whole bunch of these players? So I think this is actually like a good time to do this. So somebody made one of those tier list thingies on can I zoom in on this? Somebody made one of these tier list thingies. I'm gonna do this, and we're gonna throw the players on, and then I have my like 25, 26 squad tentatively there, and then we can talk about what I think because it's kind of relevant to some of those things, and then I'll come back and talk about mine and whatever. What's funny is I had this open and I was gonna talk about this, and we ended up not. But the Minu thing, just to put it in here, is in here. Um, and it sounds like it's just all agent talk, and he's like whatever. So that's whatever. So that's fine. Um, yeah, this should be at the bottom. You're right. You're right. Sell or get rid should be at the bottom. I agree, Charlie. You're absolutely right. Okay, so let's go through it, and like I'll stop and we can talk about things as they come up. Um, yeah, definitely. So Bob Sanchez, I'm keeping Bob unless I get like a huge offer for Baberto. Unless I keep Baberto for uh unless I get a huge offer, right? Like West Ham are like uh if West Ham are like, yeah, we'll give you 50 million for Robert Sanchez, then like, yeah, I'd take it. Um, but I think he's good. Like I think he's a reasonable shot stopper. I think he's an excellent cross taker. Um, I think he's a somewhat unreliable, but like I think it's fine. Like I'm not itching to get out of this deal. He's on a reasonable wage. He's homegrown. Like those things are all fine. I think the one that is tough is I'm out on Jorgensen. Like I would just move on. I think he hasn't quite panned out. I think you'll get pretty close. I think you'll get pretty close to what you paid for him if you chose to move him. I would not hate if they chose to loan him. I wouldn't hate it. Um, but I would choose to move on from him because I just don't think so. Like one of the things that you when you get stuck with all these players is that like the loan rules are changing, and the more players you have in like loan purgatory, the harder it is to move them. Like you're going to see I finish with 7 loanees from like the core group of first team players. And that doesn't include any of the academy players who like can get domestic loans, and you can like cross that bridge when you get to it. But that's it's hard to move the ones. Elliot Sherman, Jorgensen is another in the Sporting Directors Long Running Series. What was the point of that transfer? It made no sense to me as a it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me with when you already had Petrovic. What I will say, and like there's actually some like good goalkeeper details in here. So like club are gonna do an internal review on their goalkeepers. Penders will probably go on loan. Club on fair value for Sanchez, but fine if he stays. Happy to move on from Jorgensen. Joan Garcia is moving. I don't really like Joan Garcia as much as other people, but he's fine. Bulka has been in the running before. Not going to do any Martinez. They'll only sign a goalkeeper if it's the best option. Maybe Mike Minan. To me, you look at the second last point. Chelsea will only sign a goalkeeper if they're the absolutely best option. I think when you look at the global goalkeeper pool, it's very hard outside of like Alisson and maybe a couple other names who are like not very gettable. It's very hard to look at it and be like, yeah, they're worth spending a huge fee on to get the number one choice. And so I don't hate the decision to say, hey, between Sanchez, Petrovic, and Jorgensen, we're going to spend um we're going to spend 70 million on the three of them combined. One of them is probably gonna hit, and then the other two we can move on for 75% of what we paid, and it's fine. We've spent 40 million total. You know what I mean? So I don't hate it strategically. But Jorgensen is like, he's fine. He's probably not good enough for Chelsea, but he's young. Like he actually he was very good when he played in the Conference League in general. Like there's only one or two errors across that like 15 match stretch. I wouldn't hate, for example, if they chose to let him go play at Strasbourg for a year and loaned Penders elsewhere. It's just the loan slots. Bergstrom, I don't really care. Do whatever. I guess be the third goalkeeper. And then Bettinelli, I would move on from because I don't know. I don't care if you do this. Whatever. It doesn't matter to me. They're both domestic. I don't really care. I guess I'd keep Bergstrom because he's club trained and like for Champions League registration that matters maybe. But I don't feel very strongly about the goalkeepers. Any other goalkeeper questions before before we move on? I'm gonna move this over here quickly, and I'm gonna like hide my stuff as you see it. I'm gonna can't see the text. So this is what I have the squad as right now. So I would keep Sanchez as the starter. I would bring Petrovic back in. I would have Bergstrom as my third goalkeeper, and I would have Penders there. Slonina is not on this list, but actually he might be. He might be. So Petrovic, yeah, let's just whatever. We can keep doing the goalkeepers. So Petrovic, I would obviously keep. I think I would let him. I think I would let him and Sanchez duke it out for number one. And really, what I would do, it's pretty uncommon, and you're not going to get. This is not. I don't think this would happen, but in like a purely game theory optimal standpoint, I would play Sanchez against the teams you need his cross claiming, and I would play Petrovic against the teams you don't. That would be my MO for them, but I think you'll just end up letting them duke it out. The other goalkeepers, Kepa, I think, goes this summer, and Penders gets a nice loan. Somebody asked me, am I buying the Penders hype? Andy asked, am I buying the Penders hype? Also, Slonina's not on here. I don't really know why. I would have Slonina in sell or get rid. I would be moving on from that deal. It didn't work, and that's okay. That's the nice thing when you buy kids for like 8 million is like sometimes they don't work and it doesn't matter. Am I buying the Penders hype? I quite like Penders. For his age, he is a very good goalkeeper. It is very rare to get players that are 18, 19 years old and have played as many senior minutes as him. Like one of the benefits of the the B team system that is in Belgium is that he has played a lot of minutes against men already. And in terms of what I think of that, his shot stopping record for Genk was quite good. The distribution stuff is very good. It is super legit. He can really, really spray a pass. His cross claiming is not fabulous. He has a very high percentage stopped, but his like judgment and the angles he takes aren't great, which is fine because he's a kid. Like he also gave away a few penalties this year going to ground easily. Like he's going to be a quite good goalkeeper, I think. And that's part of why I'm like, under no circumstances can he be allowed to come to Chelsea and not play very many games. He absolutely has to play 35 games next year against men, whether that's at Genk, whether that's in France, whether that's in the I would personally not send him to the championship. I can see the argument for it. I think France is a very good medium point where like there's some direct play, but it's not all direct play. I think sending him to Strasbourg is like the most obvious solution. In terms of transfers, like people like Mainan, I just can't get there as like worth the fee plus the wages. Elliot Sherman asks about Lucas Chevalier. He's okay. Really, if I was a team and I had 0 goalkeepers on my roster, I would just buy a bunch of guys like Brice Samba and like Napoli. Napoli should buy Petrovic. Napoli should go to Chelsea and say, we'll buy Petrovic for 30 million because would be good at the things that Conte asks his team to do, and in Italy he'd be totally fine. That I think is like how I would approach it if I were Napoli. But so we'll see. Magnon on low wages. Mike Magnon is not on low wages. He is making like quite reasonable money. I'm pretty sure he makes like 150 grand a week, which is not low wages. And he's 30, so his next contract is going to be humongous because it's probably his last big contract. So that I think is whatever. Am I still big on Keller? I don't know if I was big on Keller so much as I liked him. Moving on to the defenders. Some of these are very easy, right? Like Levi Colwill is obviously staying. And like Fofana is staying, mostly because you couldn't get off of him anyways. He makes too much money and he's too injury prone. I think I hope that you can get him on like the Reese plan. Yeah, Bulka's the other one. Abdulaziz says Bulka's available for 15 million. Yeah, he's the other one that I'm like, yeah, totally. I would absolutely be cool with Bulka, if I was gambling. So that's fine there. In terms of center, Andy asks, why do I think Onana's better in the Premier League? Wasn't he great before coming in? Yeah, I thought Onana was very good at Inter. I think Inter were significantly better than United defensively, and it covered some of the holes in his game that were there at Ajax that people were hesitant about at Ajax and then did not turn up when he went to Inter because everything was smooth at Inter. And then United were a mess, and all of a sudden all the holes come back. James Lonke, weren't there reports that Marseille wanted Fofana? Yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen. Like, he just makes too much money. So Fofana, I think, like, if you can get him on the plan that Reese was on this year, where, like, as Rob Prattley says here, 3 center backs, losing patience with Fofana, frustration, he rushed himself back with injury. That is a thing I have heard as well, that the club were like, hey, you should probably not rush this. He rushed it, got injured again. I think it's very possible that now he goes the other way. But I think he's good, and you keep him if he can play and get on the field. If you can get him to a place where he can play once a week, I think you're pretty happy about it. I would personally look to move on from Tosin because I think he was free. I don't think he's that good, and I think you can make enough money and then do something else with that money that I would move him. I suspect he stays. Like, I think there's a 0% chance he leaves, so I'm going to put him here. I would keep Trev. I think Trev is tremendously valuable. He plays multiple positions. He is super flexible. He can play right back. He can play center back. He can play both sides of center back. He can play the middle of a 3. He can play the outside of the 3. He is clearly like loves the club and dedicated to the club. He's a very good passer. He can dribble into midfield really well. He covers the channels. He's not amazing in the air. It's legitimately a weakness in his game, and that's okay. I think it's a no-brainer. When you think about building like an elite squad, right? Like the thing that if you go read the book on Liverpool winning the title from their analytics guys, one of the things they highlight, one of the things Ian Graham highlights is like, if you get players who can cover multiple spots, you don't have to buy as many players. And if you don't have to buy as many players, you can get better players. And so I think Trev is a no-brainer to keep. I would not be surprised if he moved. I would also keep Badishile. I think left-footed center backs are a priority. Prathamesh asks, what do I think of Branthwaite? I think you could get Bissek for cheaper. ZZZ says Gila Branthwaite, some whispers as of recent. So I look at it and I'm like, okay, Branthwaite's going to cost you 65 million pounds probably. He's going to cost you a ton of money because Everton are going to look at him as the way out of their FFP troubles. How much better than Badiashile is he? And the answer to me is not very. I think Badiashile is very good. I think he's a totally competent squad player. I think can start many games. And he's unlucky because Levi Cole is just better than him, and that's okay. But I think Badiashile is like a useful player that I would keep around for sure. Again, unless he is itching to leave and is like, I want out. Yeah, I moved Tosin back to keep because he's not going to go, so it's fine. It's not going to go. But I think Badiashile is like, it would be very difficult to upgrade on him as a backup left center back. He can play middle of the three, he can play left of the three. He can also play a little bit at left back. I am surprised we have not seen more of him at left back. I think there's like pretty natural benefits to that. But I think it's like fine. Bad Rabbit says like it struck me odd that we've been linked to a center back all season when center back is where we're most stuck. I think the thing with the center back position is like we have lots of players there. And it's easy to say, like, it's very easy for me to look at Tosin, Trev, and Badiashile and say, like, yeah, I can get you a better player than those three. Because I can, really easily. I can really easily find you a center back better than those guys. But I can't find you a center back that is enough better than those guys that it is worth me taking the fee hit on these guys, who I don't think have amazing resale value because they don't play that much. Other than Tosin, who came in free, and I think you could move to West Ham for 20 million very comfortably. And Trev is quote unquote pure profit, so again, it's easy to move. I think it's very difficult to find a guy that's not going to cost you 30 to 40 to 50 million more than them, and is going to be worth that, right? Like if you were to say, if you were like, what do you think about Mickey Van de Ven? Like, yeah, I'd probably do that if he wasn't injured. Like that I think I'd be interested. Like there are guys like even like Christian Romero. Like I'd be pretty into Christian Romero, but from Spurs. But like it's not. I'm not going to get the deal for what I want, and the wages are going to be too much. So that is what I think. Plus SAR coming in next season too. Muse2322 says somebody on the last stream sent like tier 0 Strasbourg journalists who said like actually that's not happening. That deal is probably not going to happen the way it's been reported it has. Simon G, surely we need to sell one center back if we buy a new one. And I think that's for sure true. I just don't know who you get, and I don't know whatever. On the center back rumors, Kim Min-jae was offered. Oh, the other center backs, I guess I should just like finish them. Anselmino can go on loan. I don't really care about him. He's fine. He's like a kid, but until he shows me anything, I have no thoughts. Disasi, I'm moving on from. I think Disasi is like a much better player than people give him credit for. He is not that bad, but I think he is also not that good. I think he is saleable, and I think he's not very good at being a backup. Like Badiashile doesn't complain very much. I think Disasi probably complains. And that's okay. That's fine. The deal didn't work out. No problems. Gilchrist I would loan. But I wouldn't. I would loan, but I like wouldn't be mad if he moved. Bashir Humphreys is already sold. That deal is already done. Ellie Sherman Disasi kept being asked to play right, but yeah, because Chelsea had 1 million center backs this year. It is what it is. Renato Vega, I would sell. Somebody asked, do I think Badiashile is better than Renato Vega? Considerably. I think that is like a not close comparison. I think Renato Vega is like undeniably a player trading success story. Like you pay 12 million for him, you get half of his fee in loan fees in the first year, and you will be able to move him easily for double what you paid. after one summer, after one season. That's awesome. Um, I would lock in that profit sooner than later. I would definitely not dally and be stuck with that. Andy says, isn't Betty Shirley just better than Branthwaite? Maybe. They're pretty similar. I would say similar levels. I'd say Branthwaite is probably a better penalty area defender, but Betty Shirley is much better in possession, and that probably comes out in the wash. But I would move on from Renata Vega. Elliot Sherman asks, how did he burn those bridges? The thing that I've heard about Vega is that the thing I've heard pretty consistently about Vega is that he wants to play center back, and the club played him at left back and in midfield, and he was like, I'm not either of those things, which is an interesting thing to say to a club when you played defensive midfield the entire season previous. So it's fine. Our record with signing players with attitude problems is alarming. I think actually the bigger problem is that we hear about the attitude problems. I think Chelsea are a pretty porous club these days, which I don't love. But it is what it is. Other center backs. Is there any other center backs on here? No, that's all the center backs. So my center back core that I would run, I would not buy a center back unless like somebody obviously much better than these guys turned up. I would run the same 5 center backs back for next year. And so that's a gap. That's the left back. This one is... There we go. And so that's what I would run. That's what my center back core would look like. Better Up says Josh. Josh is in my right back category. And I guess we can just go there. We'll go the fullbacks now. I would loan Josh. I think he needs to play a lot. And I don't think there's going to be enough minutes for him here at center back or right back. I would very much love Josh to go to Strasbourg. I would very much like him and Tyreek to go to Strasbourg, where you can go. You can play for a coach we're pretty sure is good, that plays a style not that dissimilar from Chelsea. It's a 3 not a 4. Like Josh would be the outside center back in a 3, which is fine. And like he would get to do some fullback things and some center back things, and I think that's like good development for him. But I think he needs to play like 2,500 minutes and like play Conference League again. He's already done Conference League. Great, do both. Like I think that would be a really good move for him to see both halves. Andy says Josh, George, and Penders should be the 3 to Strasbourg. Well, this is the thing, right? Is like I think Josh, George, Penders, and Pais should all go to Strasbourg, but you can't send 4. So it's like, well, who should go between them then? And like I probably lean, given Chelsea's winger depth, which I'll talk about later, is like George is probably the one who doesn't go. Because like you could find him enough minutes at Chelsea. Cucurella is obviously a keep. Reece James is obviously a keep. Gusto is obviously a keep. Those are all good. Elliot Sherman, let's buy another club. I am very surprised Chelsea have not bought another club yet, particularly in Belgium or Portugal. Belgium, because like the teams in the fan base in Belgium seems to be more amenable to multi-club ownership than other countries. It has very friendly visa rules, so you can in Belgium, like it's very easy for African players, for example, to get a work visa, where it is, or South American players, where it is much more difficult to get it in other countries. The rumor was like we were buying Sporting or a chunk of Sporting. I don't know. We'll see. I think that is like a thing that I would do, is I would have another club in the portfolio that is like at least a stepping stone for guys you can do. But you can only loan 3 players to Strasbourg for now, so we are stuck with that deal. Ibadullah Zia says, off topic, but I'm a big fan of Harrison Murray Campbell. Looked amazing in that debut. Yeah, Harrison Murray Campbell is someone I would expect to get a domestic loan. I would expect him to get like a League One-ish loan, something like that. On the fullback so far, Callum Walsh asks, why is Gusto an obvious keep? So I think the thing with Gusto, right, is I like Gusto. If Chelsea chose, for example, to sell Gusto and keep Josh, I would not be mad. I also think there are benefits to that from a continuity perspective, where you could keep Josh and Reece both playing right center back in build up, and you would get to do all of those things you want to do. The reason I say keep is I don't think Gusto is nearly as bad as he was this season. Like, everything went wrong for that guy. He got injured. He played very poorly most of the time. But it wasn't like he's a bad player. It was like he's playing poorly. And one of the things that I quite liked about Gusto, and Enzo Maresca flagged this up after the Conference League final, is that Gusto is yanked at halftime. He has a terrible first half. Like, he was so bad in the first half. And also to say, I got hammered after 20 minutes for saying, hey, I get he's not playing well, but if you take him off after 15 minutes, in the Conference League final, his Chelsea career is over. It's over. There's nothing else. And after the game, Maresca said, like, hey, we scored the equalizer, we scored the winner, and the first two guys to run to the corner flag to go celebrate are Benoit and Malo, the two guys who get taken off. Like, that's a good personality to have around. And I am very curious to see if Maresca finds better solutions for the fullbacks. Like, somebody asked earlier about, do the fullbacks give defensive solidity by inverting? And I think, yes, the transitions are smaller. I totally see the benefit. I also see the trade-off of, like, I think Maresca has to be a little bit more flexible with his fullback choices this year, where, like, there are situations where you should have a fullback get up and down, and you should have a fullback get up and down and have a winger go inside and have your DM be much more conservative with their positioning. And that's how you manage the transition. Like, as long as you have someone to manage the transition, it's okay. I think if you look at Chelsea's midfield composition for next year, like, they should probably do much more conservative things with some of their midfielders. Callum says Reece and Josh right center back. Antwi can do the fullback winner stuff. I think Genesis Antwi is not close to being a first team player. I think, like, if Chelsea, so this is where we have to talk about, like, the recruitment and the squad decisions, because Chelsea are in the Champions League, are very different from the recruitment and squad decisions if they'd stayed in Conference League or even Europa League, where, like, if Chelsea had stayed in Conference League or Europa League, I would be open to them not buying a striker and just running Jackson and Guiu, because I think Guiu is useful and good. But I think Guiu is useful and good as, like, plays 6 Premier League 90s and plays a bunch of cup games. I don't think he's useful as plays a full Premier League season and Champions League games. Genesis Antwi may very well end up being an excellent player. I don't think he is currently an excellent player. And that's okay. Shamouk is the same. Kiana Dyer is the same. Even Tyreek and Josh. Like, my big concern about Tyreek and Josh is, like, them not getting enough minutes. And, like, I'm not going to lie to you. How confident am I that if you played Tyreek George 2090s in the league right now, he would be at the same level in terms of production as Neto or Sancho or Madueke? Like, Madueke is the most productive of those by a lot, but as Neto or Sancho, like, I don't know, maybe? Like, probably not that productive. And so I think you just have to be mindful of not, if you think players are that are not that good, or are and to be clear, like, Josh and Tyreek are way more deserving of that opportunity than someone like Antwi. So I think you have to be very careful. Why did the coach deplatform Gusto? I just want to say I hate the word platform, and I hate deplatform. I'm very so, like, this idea of, like, platforms players to impact the game and do their thing, and it's not just Poch, it's other people like Cole Palmer had a quote after the final about like I just stopped passing backwards and sideways, and like went and did it myself, and it's like Maresca has to platform them. Like, actually, no. The goal of the manager has nothing to do with individual players. The goal of the manager is to maximize the team. And so, yes, do I think how you choose to play should be influenced by the personnel available to you? Absolutely. Soccer is not some sport that there's like a crazy meta that like even if you have the word, it's not Football Manager, right? Where like you can just pick this formation and this tactics and hit and put whatever players in, and even though their like circle for tactical fit for that role is in the yellow, you're still gonna win because it doesn't matter. Um, like football in real life is not like that, and you should be thinking about how you want to play based on the profiles and people you have available. However, like coaches are not sitting there and being like, I'm deplatforming Gusto. I'm making him less whatever. Like that's absolutely not a thing. It's I'm trying to win the match and the matches. And I think this is the best way to do it. That this gets more out of this player and this player has to eat that it doesn't work for them as well, and that's okay. So it's a weird, like, that's just not how people think about the game. Um, Other fullbacks who are on here: Caleb Wiley, get rid. One of the most inexplicable deals we've ever done. Ben Chilwell, I think, is gone. He said here Chilwell will leave. Might release him for free if we get the right offer. Vega Burnbridge's club, be happy to sell him. Blah 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 blah. Renew Cucurella. Club like Joral Hado. Um, I think that's fine. On the right back side is just like could sell Gusto if a good option came forward. But otherwise, you're not really doing anything at right back, which I think is correct. And so that's what I would do with my thing. And so you look at it and you say, oh, that's interesting. I think Chelsea have a bunch of guys that like could play left back, like James and Gusto and Colwill and Badiashile, but you probably don't want to play them left back. So I do think like backup left back is a spot that you probably need to choose to do something in uh in 25 in the summer. Whether that is and like Rob says here, you have to be mindful of not blocking. Um, you have to be mindful of not blocking the path for ISS. Again, I don't like ISS as many as other people. I still don't really. We haven't even seen him play at all, really. Elliot Sherman and Lewis Hall would be very handy. Yeah, like Lewis Hall, you look back and it's like, holy, do you regret that one? Like definitely more than the Livramento one, but like holy, do you regret that one? Um, yes, the team is most important, but why is he so insistent on inverting him? Same dynamic as you said with Cucurella. Uh, like yeah, I think he should have done Gusto deeper Cucurella inside, but like I don't know, I'm sure he had a reason for it. I'm sure he had a reason for it. We'll get to Sancho. We'll get to Sancho. So save your Sancho thoughts. But that's I think you look at it and it's like the only defender that I think you need to buy. You need to buy is a backup left back. And I think again, if we're talking about buying backups, that backup has to be able to do something else. So is that like a left back, left center back cover? I think that's why people like Joral Hado. He can do both. Is it a left back defensive midfielder? Like what I would have loved is like if Dario Asugo could play left back. I'd be like, awesome. I'd be super cool with that. I don't think he can. Maybe he can, but I don't think so. Um, Even like Callum Walsh, what's your thoughts on Caicedo inverted left back? Like I think that instead of doing Caicedo at right back, I think that could be a solution to do the Caicedo inverts thing. I think he would struggle. I think it would be pretty tough. But he could get there. Charlie, where's my left back goalkeeper cover? Mike Penders, pretty sure he's left footed, right? I think I got to think about it. I think he's left footed. Um, Penders, backup left back, could happen. That's how he gets his minutes. Dewsbury Hall, crazy rogue left back shout. Left back to left 10. That could be a fun one. Callum Walsh, Carlos Baliba, Zawak, Giovanni Kenda, left back 2026. Yeah, like we'll see what happens with that guy. Chiba, people hate it, but I still believe in Chilwell. I think the thing with Chilwell at this point is just like he makes a lot of money and he's not that fit all the time. I think with Chilwell, like if and again, like so I'm gonna finish this and then there are a couple players I'll talk about. But like guys like Chilwell and João Felix and Raheem Sterling are not bad players. Like the problem with them problem is their contract more than anything. Like, yeah, they're not amazing. Like, Chilwell is often injured, but he's been pretty good when he plays. João Felix is not amazing, but he is like a perfectly useful creative squad player. Raheem Sterling has declined significantly. He was still like a 0.4 XG plus XA guy for Arsenal this year across all comps. So you look at them and you're like, hey, if your choice is Raheem Sterling, I'm going to keep you as our backup left winger, or you are going to go train on your own and I'm going to pay you all of this money to not play for me, and then I'm going to go buy a backup left winger who gives me vaguely the same production that you would anyways. What are we doing? What are we doing there? So that's, to me, I look at it and I'm like, ugh. Yeah. Callum Walsh, what's Cucurella's contract? Didn't he get a bully contract? I think lots of money, but not long length. And it's been 3 years since he signed. So there's probably only 2 or 3 years left on it. Ellie Sherman, this is where I'm compelled to say we re-signed Chilwell April 2023. Yeah, and then he just like died physically, which is tough. Phil Dumas, good to see an American Chelsea content creator, not American, I'm Canadian. I just live in America, so I guess it's all the same. But that's where I'm at on the fullback. So I think like acquiring a backup left back of some denomination, whether that's you keep Chilwell, whether that's you convert someone there, I think that's a thing you need to figure out. Midfielders, Moy stays, Lavia stays, which is a surprise, like not a thing I would have thought that I was saying a while ago. Enzo stays. Andre Santos for me stays. Ugo Chukwu for me stays. Asugo for me stays. Judo Gnome. The easiest way I would explain it is in the last 7 games of the season, how many games did you play Chilwell over Cucurella? So yeah, Chilwell makes too much to be a squad player. Yeah, I think that's correct. Dewsbury Hall, time to go. I'm sorry, it's unfortunate. I would just choose to move on. Amugu, you're loaning, even though I just would never have bought him. But what are you gonna do? What else we got on here? Carney, time to go. I've had enough. I also would not hate if it was this and this. I wouldn't be mad about it, but I would get there. Abdulaziz, 6 midfielders, KD. Well, you raise a good point that is indeed 6 midfielders. And the reason is because I would just play midfield threes all the time. I would not play 4-2-3-1 anymore. I would play midfield threes all the time for next year. Because I think you can be much more aggressive with your front three. And I think the thing that we got to is like Chelsea looked their best when they got all of the midfielders on the field. And the way they often did that meant you dropped James. But you can't drop James because he's good and also he's maybe healthy now. So you have to get 3 midfielders on the pitch another way. But you're not going to drop Palmer. And you're not going to play him deeper as an 8. So we end up as like this situation of this is the midfield I would run and I would play the midfield 3. So somebody asks, I'm very shocked that you have Ugachukwu there because I have been historically pretty critical of Leslie Ugachukwu. Um, that is true. I have been. I think Ugachukwu is like fine. I think one of my criticisms of him is that he is a sieve defensively. I think he is not uh, very good at tracking runners off of the back of him. I do think, however, that he is quite good at like bursting forward past people, and I think he is actually not bad at arriving in the box. He's also very large. And so I look at it and I say, if you play a midfield three that is nominally Caicedo and Lavia deeper, Enzo ahead of them, and as substitutes every single game, you have Andre Santos off the bench, who is like a spark plug. He can play deeper, he can play higher, he can run. You have Asugo to come on and kick people. You have Ugachukwu, who can run around and kick people and arrive in the box and do a whole bunch of stuff and be very large. I think that's like a pretty useful formula to get good midfield production. So like it's that I think is the thing. Andy asks my verdict on Enzo. Enzo, is he now living up to his potential? Yeah, I think Enzo Fernandez had a very productive season. I don't think at any time has Enzo like not been living up. I think has he been one of the best midfielders in the world? No. Has he been like very good? Yeah, I think so. Like this is pretty ridiculous midfield production. Like I think it's like if you're gonna get a guy who's gonna give you 0.4, 5 shots or 5 shots created, like whole bunch of passes, whole bunch of carries, whole bunch of box touches, whole bunch of receptions between lines, and then he's gonna go chase people as a 10. Like pretty good. If you put him as the right 8, like to me, where you get to is like Palmer is the right winger, Enzo is the right 8, and you have a right back that is going. Like God, that's a real team. That's a real team. You got a whole lot of passing over there. Hot take: sell Enzo, loan Lavia, believe Ugo Andre alongside Caicedo. Great. Yeah, but you just don't have enough players then. And like Lavia helps you in first phase buildup, which like I don't think the thing that I think you have to be really cognizant of is if you play this midfield, you need enough guys who can get the ball with their back to play and can get you playing forward. And like that's really only Caicedo, Santos, and Lavia. Like that is not a Sugo. Enzo can't really do it. Like I don't know. ZZZ asks where does Lavia's development go if he struggles with injuries again? Yeah, like that's another legitimate question. Is like, can you do Lavia like the Reece James plan? Like he's just got to play. He's just got to play more, but you probably only play him once a week. Like I think with Lavia, to me, the slow roll of like he's gonna get a lot of 60 minutes, and then you're gonna go from there, and you're gonna see, and that's I think okay. I think that's a fine start for this, and that's why you have these guys. Like I don't think Asugo is amazing. I think he's a very good ball winner. I don't think he's great at other things, but like you can imagine. You bring him on 65th minute in a game that is starting to get stretched, or there's lots of loose balls and second balls, and it's like he's just like those ones where like Caicedo comes on and like nips a loose ball and it's a counter the other way, or like somebody's tired and under hits a pass and he jumps in, wins the poke, wins a foul, and he's like lots of those that I think are really valuable. Callum says Carney left wing backup potential, and somebody asked why he didn't play at Dortmund, and he didn't play because he's always injured. And he's always injured because he's always injured. And I don't really understand why, but he is. He's never fit, ever. As a winger, like, I just don't see it. He just doesn't shoot enough. He doesn't. And part of that is because he played in midfield. But, like, we're at a point where, like, Carney is going to be 22 in October. He's going to be 22 in October, and he's going to have played 1,200 senior minutes. Like, that's insane at 22. And a player who has consistently been in the first team since 16 years old. Like, that's ridiculous. That cannot... Like, let's see. If I go all comps and we get the cups in here. Like, yeah, he's played 1,500 senior minutes at 22. That's insane. So to me, like he's one that I think is just it's too far gone. Like I don't think you can rescue that one. And I think you will get a good fee for him, so it's like I don't really care. Um but maybe you're like, I don't know, we'll find a way. 0.66 in 0.6 XG in 500 minutes this year. You could talk yourself into it. And to be fair, if I wanted to like take my anti Carney hat off because I don't like Carney, is like if you said, hey, I think Ugochukwu is probably a little bit too similar to these guys. We're gonna move on, or like you get a better deal to move him on, and then you go and you decide, okay, we're gonna bring Carney in. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about it because I do think he is more like knit things together. He's definitely a better passer than Ugochukwu and Asugo. Like I could see there being utility there if you wanted to. Say we loan Asugo instead of Amugu. Where does he go? I don't know. Strasbourg, I guess. But like Amugu, I have no idea. That's another one. Put that in the SAR bucket of like I have no idea where you did that. In terms of other midfielders, who we got in here? These are all wingers. Amari Kellyman, I don't know, whatever. I don't care. Loan. Shouldn't have done that deal. That was dumb. Kendry Pais, loan. I think this discussion really illustrates how important the outgoings will be. Yeah, it's something like 17. I think it's like 17 players for sure. Andrew Ford, I feel like you're falling into the age-old trap of buying backups, e.g. at left back, rather than buying players to improve the 11 and then use the existing or academy players to fill out the squad. Yeah, I think that's a totally valid criticism of how Chelsea have approached things. I think when I look at left back, I think what I look at is like, okay, we have to have another left back, right? So we both agree you have to have another left back. I think you look at it and you say, okay, Cucurella makes £175,000 a week. He costs 60 million euros. And how many left backs can I buy that are better than him to bump him down to the rotation option? And like the list of left backs that I can get that are better than him are really, really, really small. It's really small. And it's guys who are going to cost so much of the budget that I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to do that. So that's why I say I'm going to buy someone who is nominally the backup behind Cucurella. But I'm going to buy them in a different age bracket, so they're going to fill a different thing, right? So if I buy a 20-year-old, Cucurella's 27 or something, 26, like in 2 years' time, maybe we are choosing to move on for Cucurella for this player. But I'm also going to buy someone who can do something else. So like if I buy Hato, right? Like this becomes Hato, and Hato becomes your third choice left center back. And now you have all of those players, and he is filling two roles for you. If I was to buy, I don't know, I can't even think of like a left-footed defensive midfielder, but some like whatever, Zinchenko. We would never buy Zinchenko, but he's just the player that comes to mind. Like, yeah, I can buy Zinchenko, who's my backup left back, and he's gonna be my backup left center midfielder now. Right? Like I need a player. If you're absolutely right that if I can't buy a player who is a starter for that position, they have to be able to do it. They have to be able to cover other spots. Yeah, like Bad Rabbits and Kuzan says like Vega's that guy, and like yeah, fair, but like clearly they want to move on from Vega. Andrew Ford, we're gonna end up doing the same thing as last summer, where we buy a bunch of guys who don't elevate the first team. Maybe it's totally possible. I would hope not. I would hope that like some of the guys they're gonna buy are elevators. But I think if I'm being honest, like to me, the only positions I would buy are left winger, left back, and striker. And the striker target that I have consistently wanted is like a guy that can play when Jackson doesn't play and a guy you can bring off the bench to attack things. Now, Jackson had whatever. We'll talk about the strikers. Just like hear me out for a little bit. Hear me out. Hear me out on that one. All right, attackers. Keep Cole Palmer, obviously. And Kunku, I've just moved on. Like it didn't work out. That's okay. No problems. You'll get most of your money back. You clear a whole bunch of wages off the book. No problem. Keep Nani. He's good. Neto, if you had, let's say, if Saudi came and we're like, hey, we'll give you 65 million for Neto. Done. Gone. Goodbye. Have fun. I don't think there is a market to move him, so I'm keeping him. Sancho. Sancho, I would not choose to bring back. I would not pay the fee. I do think if you could not get your first time winger targets, like if you could not get a star left winger, like a legitimately very good left winger, I would maybe do the deal if his wages were low enough, is how I will phrase that. But I think his wages will not be low enough, and so you'll be left with this weird situation of whatever. Elliot Sherman, Cunha scores more goals than Neto has goal involvement, and I don't think Cunha's that good. Yeah, Cunha finished super hot this year. I would not buy Cunha. I think that's a deal that's not going to come out really well. We're gonna talk about the wingers. Let me go through them. George, I would loan, as we previously discussed. Mudryk, I don't know. I'm just gonna put him in here because like, what's annoying is like I would really love. Hey, I'd keep Sancho. He's definitely better than Madueke. That is a horrific take. Oh, Pano's here. Very lovely. Very lovely. I think with Mudryk, like the weird one is I really would have liked to see where he got by the end of the season. Because I thought Maresca did like a pretty good job with the wingers in general. Like I thought the wingers as a whole were like progressed in a way that I was vaguely happy with. Like Madueke was a much better player this season than he was previous seasons. Like I would have really liked to see where Mudryk got. I assume there is no world where he is playing for Chelsea next season, whether by ban or by move. So I'm just gonna put him there. Pan, I think, will sign Sancho as an emergency option if they don't get Williams / Rodrigo. If he agrees the wage cut, worst case they flip him. Yeah, like I think people were talking about like Chelsea are gonna buy Sancho, then flip him to Dortmund for Gittins. And it's like, why would you do that? Like that requires them to value Sancho at more than 25 million, which they absolutely do not. Andrew Ford, putting up fires to fill out the squad for Champions League was the exact rationale for the Emerson, Zappacosta, and Bakayoko summer, and it was a disaster. I think that's a valid criticism. I do think I'll put the Bakayoko one to the side because I think Bakayoko was legitimately very good, and then he destroyed his knees, and like that's kind of a separate thing. And Zappacosta, I think everybody hated at the time. Emerson, I still don't think was that bad a deal. Emerson was in that period where they were gambling on dudes with like coming off of ACL tears because they thought they had an inside track on injury recovery like they did with Cesc. And it worked for Rudiger, but it didn't quite work for Emerson, who like just couldn't move. He just was not. He had like very little athletic ability. After that, João Felix, I would just try to move as best I can. Giovanni Kenda is staying on loan. Estevao is coming into the squad. And Raheem Sterling, I would try to move on from as best as possible. Bad Rabbits, Emerson, and Zappacosta filled the roles of backup fullbacks. They never did much. They weren't meant to. They filled the holes we didn't burn down. Yeah, the point that Andrew Ford is making is that the spending on those players had a defined low ceiling and then takes away resources from spending on other things. Like, because you spend 60 million, say, I don't think it was that much. I think it was more like 40 million on Emerson and Zappacosta, you did not buy Ashraf Hakimi or whatever at right back. I think that was around then that was the thing. So that's what it is. So on the wingers, like what I'm looking at, like I think Kenda is for sure on loan. I think Tyreek George needs the minutes for a loan. I think I would move on from Neto, but you're not going to. I would move on from Sancho, but I would leave him in the back pocket of like, if you can't find a left winger you really like, I'd probably do it to have the body there. And then Estevao's in the squad. So my wingers would look something like this. So I would have, nominally, I would have Madueke and Palmer starting as my wingers, and then you have, but maybe you are buying a starter for that position, and then you're running Madueke and Neto, and then Estevao as your wingers. I think if you were to run with only these 4 guys, you'd be very light. I think you need another winger that is right-footed, predominantly left side, is, I think, the one. Whether that's George staying, whether that's Sancho, whether that's you go buy a legit elite winger, I don't know. Bad Rabbits, you need a separate category for Saudi, please. Yeah, that's Saudi, please. Saudi, please. That's probably it. It's probably just those 2 guys. Saudi, please. Thomas Wilkinson, my main concern with the sporting directors is they don't view last year's window as an abject failure and won't adjust accordingly. Yeah, I would be very concerned that they're like, we did it. Pano, I keep seeing journos speculate that Nico could be used on the wing. I don't think that's very much a good idea. Yeah, so I mean, this is the thing with Nico is like, if you buy another striker, it's a lot. There's not that many. There's not that many striker minutes available. Like Chelsea are never going to play with 2 up top, so it means some of the minutes those players play have to be spent at winger. And I think you could make the case that it's Jackson as left winger. I wouldn't make that case, but you could. I don't know. I think it's a tough one. I don't think for the way Chelsea used their wingers this year, he would thrive. I think if Maresca is more flexible and that we're gonna get some, I don't think if Maresca is more flexible with his fullbacks, Jackson could do the wide forward thing. But I don't think he can do the touchline winger thing, which is tough. Hey, Kier, do you watch football games besides Chelsea? How can you say Madueke is better than Sancho? And then, like, a couple people. And, like, Barrow says, if you don't think he's right, why watch? I have no problem with people disagreeing. I think it's a valid, like, sure, if you want to have the conversation about why do I think Madueke is better than Sancho, we can. So, like, here's Sancho, okay? Sancho at Dortmund, huge output, okay? Lots of goals, lots of assists. If you look at every season after that, it is very low production. Very low production. And these seasons are very driven by getting to play with Erling Haaland, who scored 1 trillion goals, but also is like the most, like, I could play with Erling Haaland and get 5 and 5, I think. I could play with Erling Haaland and get 5 and 5. Like, and especially in the Bundesliga where it's so transitional, and Erling Haaland is like the best transition player maybe of all time, and is like a final third cheat code for making good decisions to create things. Like, I think there's a huge boost there. Now, I think Sancho, very good passer, really good creator, dribbles the ball into the box really well. Like, this whole middle segment is awesome. Like, he is very, very good at that. But, like, that is significantly... So, like, somebody asked earlier, like, could Carney be the left winger? Like, I think Carney could have a similar profile to Sancho as a left winger. But, like, you look at Madueke, and you're going to say, okay, Madueke is almost as good as getting the ball into the box on the dribble. He is a significantly worse passer. Um, he is a significantly worse passer, but he gets like way more shots, way more value. Hey, okay, but besides stats, look at Sanchez passes, dribbles, decision, etc. Take a look at his UCL run without Holland. Yeah, I mean, sure. I think like aesthetically, Sancho is a very pleasing player to watch, but Sancho has very little burst to go past people to create more clear opportunities. Sancho does not take any shots ever. He has never been a high shot volume guy. He has never created enough shots for himself. Um, like you talk about his Dortmund Champions League run, and then like, okay, yeah, sure, he had a fabulous Champions League run for Dortmund, but then you go watch what did he do in the final? Literally nothing, nothing, nothing in the semifinals, nothing in the quarterfinals. One goal in the round of 16 against PSV Eindhoven. What did he do in this run? Yeah, Dortmund won. What did he do? He has one goal in the entire knockout stages. What are we talking about here? So, like, Sancho's a fabulous player to watch. He's so fun. He is, like, unbelievable technically. Unbelievable player to watch technically. But, like, Madueke is a much more effective player. It's not particularly close. He has a great shot of him. Was man of the match in the quarters and the semis. What are you talking about? Man of the match. What are we talking about here? It's okay. I get it. You're probably a United fan. It's all good, man. It's all good. He has a great shot of him, but he scores no goals. He has a great shot, but he takes one shot a game. I agree. He's an excellent ball striker. He doesn't shoot the ball ever. Like this is the reality. Is like we have to talk about players what players can be and what they are. Sancho has the technical proficiency to be unbelievable, but he can't play centrally because he doesn't defend. And he can't play, and he's not effective as a wide player because he can't go past people because he's not fast. So he is technically unbelievable. But there's just not that much there. And it's okay. Like he's a very fun player to watch. And I said, like, I would not be that mad if Chelsea chose to keep him. I think his ability to not turn the ball over and establish Chelsea in the final third is very useful. Like, you take a look at the Conference League final. Sancho came on. Chelsea got way better right away. He was very, very effective. He was very effective in the Conference League final. Look at the rating if you like the stats. He got 8 out of 10. Yeah, 8 out of 10 is not that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything. I remember the French guy saying he didn't have the explosive dribbling to compete. Is the French guy Seb? Seb's not the only person to say that. Like if you listen to if you look at Aaron Moniz and Kees van Hemmen, the like two statsy guys for United, like they had the exact same criticisms of Sancho. It was like he just like doesn't have the burst to go past people, even though he has the technical proficiency to do so. Like if you combined Mudryk and Sancho, they would be legitimately the best winger of all time. Just like technical proficiency to go past and then burst to boom. But it's fine. So like it's fine. Like Sancho's a great player to watch. Like it's fine to look at him and be like, yeah, this guy's sick. That's like a totally reasonable thing. So I think when you look at the wingers though, Chelsea do have to get a winger on the left, whether that's Sancho or that's George or they go buy someone. And so if we go back to, I can't remember the guy's name, Andrew Ford. If I go back to Andrew Ford, like I think left winger is the position you look at and you're like, hey, if you buy a backup here, this is a mistake. Like if you're buying somebody here, they have to be a legit striker or a legit like star left winger. And like who are those guys? Like some people are gonna talk about Nico Williams. I don't really like Nico Williams that much. He makes a ton of money as well. Like I would be calling PSG about Barcola and be like, hey, any interest in moving that guy? Callum Walsh, is Garnacho a backup or project? I would totally buy Garnacho 100%. And I would say Garnacho is a starter, locked in. Like, I think he is better than all of those guys on the left. And he's the profile I like. He's very shooty. He's a good presser. That's all good. Like, ironically, a player that would be very good in this role for Chelsea is Christian Pulisic. He's like, you wouldn't go back and get him again, but like he would be an interesting player for that role. The Demonette, there aren't star left wingers out there, and also you also mentioned Malik Fofana earlier, I believe, who is interesting. Yeah, like, to me, the thing with Malik Fofana, I look at brutal shot volume, good but not great XG, but brutal shot volume, and a lot of the dribbling numbers are that he's just like taking free space. And so I look at it, you don't have a huge history of production there. I'd be very skeptical about doing that one. I'd be very difficult doing that one. Garnacho better. Are you serious? Yeah, to me, it's a style thing, right? Like, if we talk about Garnacho, and like, this is not a popular opinion amongst Chelsea fans either. Like, most people don't like Garnacho here. Garnacho takes lots of good shots. He takes a lot of shots, and he has a very high XG, and that's always a good thing. Like, if you made me close my eyes and said, you can pick 3 stats for a winger to be good at for your team, I would close my eyes and I would say shots, I would say XG, and I would say dribbles into the penalty area. And that's it. I'd close my eyes. I don't care. I'd like him to defend. I'd like him to press a little bit. That's it. That's all I want. I don't think this deal will happen. I think he would cost too much. I think he'll end up going to Napoli. I think he has some maturing to do, but he's 20 years old. That's not surprising that he has some maturing to do. I think that would be, but it would be a deal I would do if you could talk about it. Better I would sell Hudson-Odoi pre-injury. Chiba says PSG and Barcola would laugh. Garnacho's like a weak version of Matoma. Matoma's an interesting one, but he's a little bit old now. I don't know if PSG would laugh about Barcola. Like, they spent 120 million on Kavicha. They have Doué. Like, I don't think he's not available. Rafael Leao. Like, Rafael Leao, my big problem with Leao is that Rafael Leao is so bad defensively that you have to build your whole team around him, around the fact that he does not defend. And he is only, like, good as an attacker. Like, he has to be Cristiano Ronaldo level output for how little he defends. He has to be Mbappe level output for how little he defends. And, like, I think you look at PSG in the Champions League, you look at Liverpool winning the league this year, like, you simply cannot win the league and do these things if not everybody is defending. Like, you need everyone there. You need all of the guys defending. So I think it's really, really hard. Like, I don't think he's the guy for that. And I think Leao is very good, but I don't think there's enough from him. The other one that people are bringing up is Rodrigo. Better up, it's the Hazard conundrum. Hazard did not work that well did not work that hard defensively. But, like, Hazard was a monster in possession. He was relentless. He did all of the ball progression, all of the moving it into the box, all of the shot creation, all of the scoring, all of the blah, all of the... Like, it's hard, man. It's hard. It's tough. Kuzan says Yildiz. Rodrigo, I think the thing with Rodrigo I look at is, like, man, this is just not that much output for someone playing for Real Madrid. Like, he does not create nearly enough for someone playing in that attack. Like, you cannot play next to Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. in that attack and put up 0.3 xG plus XA. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not spending 80 million on that. And there's years where he looks great. Like if you told me I was getting this guy 13 and 7, I'd do it. Told me I was getting 11 and 5, maybe. Am I getting 4 and 3? No. No way am I getting 4 and 3. Am I getting 3 and 2? Am I getting 2? No. Like, I'm not getting any of these guys except for these 2 seasons, and he wasn't that guy. So I look at Rodrigo and I get a little nervous. I get a little nervous spending 80 million on him. I get a little nervous. And that's hard. That's hard. I would be very anxious to spend a lot of money on that guy. And yeah, there's definitely role issues, like he gets shifted to the right a lot, or he's got to play up front, and like all those things are fine. It's all legit. All this stuff is good. He dribbles the ball very lovely. He's very good between lines. He runs into depth and blah, 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 blah. I don't know. It's just, again, I look at it and I'm like, if I'm going to spend all the money, if I'm gonna spend 80 million and get this star left winger, I gotta be sure, man. I gotta be sure. And I'm just not sure. I'm not sure. Hey says, not all about the stats. Do you watch Real games and Rodrigo performances? I am never impressed by Rodrigo. I don't find him very enjoyable to watch. But he has been forced to do the defensive work. This is not a winger who's been forced to do defensive work. This is not that level of volume. So it's just I'm just like, I'm not sold. I'm not sold. And maybe he'll be very good if he goes to Arsenal and cooks. Great, good for him. Maybe. I wouldn't. It's not the deal I would do. And I guarantee you, he makes a lot of money at Real, and he's gonna make so much money on this deal. Somebody asked about Cherky earlier, and somebody asked about Kenan Yildiz. Yildiz, nope. There's just not enough production there. And like, Juve are very conservative, and he's very young. But again, I just, like, we're talking about someone who has to be good enough to start for sure right away. Like, if we're just buying more gambles and more projects and more whatever, like, you're not spending a big fee on these guys. Like, if you want gambles, you're buying them for much cheaper. And it's just much more, I don't know. I look at it and I'm like, I can't get there. I just can't get there. I'm paying a big fee. And like, maybe these are very good, but it's just like not the player I would go get. Like, I'm not, like, we're looking at a point, like, what is this, man? This is Neto. This is actually Neto in a worse league. So it's like, I can't get there. I can't get there. Somebody asked, what's the number for you for Barcola? I'd pay 80 for Barcola, and I wouldn't be mad. You have a lot of like pub stomping against like garbage teams here. But like, this guy drilled people in the Champions League. Barcola is excellent, and he's also stylistically exactly what we want. He's an excellent presser. He's a very good 1v1 creative dribbler, and he gets shots. Like, to me, Barcola is like, oh my god, I would do this so instantly. The other one that, like, if I was gambling, like, I would maybe think about Leroy Sané. Wrong age profile, makes too much money, but like, win now option. Ademola Lookman, I would not do this deal because I hate Atalanta, and I think there's like a lot of hot air in their numbers that I don't think translates to other leagues and to other teams. But like, vaguely that level of production is what you're looking for if that's what you're spending. Somebody brought up Antoine Semenyo. I've actually watched Semenyo in person twice and was like blah about him. right age profile. I think actually there's like a good. I think there's like genuinely some benefit to like you get somebody who's a little bit older here. Um, I think maybe. Uh, but I think Semenyo like played so predominantly like with Evan Nielsen, like as much as Semenyo nominally, uh, I just get a little anxious, and I think the other one is like the fee for him would be very high for Nani or for Semenyo. G asked about Embuemo. Again, Embuemo I think is going to play is almost exclusively off of the right, not off of the left. Um, I think Embuemo is useful, but not the player I would go for. Like I would love to get a redo at the Anthony Gordon transfer. Like that's one you probably want back. Um, do you play Nani left wing full time? Um, Half your takes are horrible. Semenyo is a star player. Sure, you're welcome to your opinion. Also, like, hey, if you can leave, like, you don't have to be here. Like, it's optional. Like, I didn't. YouTube doesn't open to my screen. Like, you couldn't do other things. It's a Saturday. Go for a walk in the park. Like, it's okay. I won't be upset. I promise. I'll still heart your comments on the streams. It's okay. Um, yeah, that I think is tough. But I think if you go Nani left wing, I think the problem we've seen is like it really does neuter his shooting output, and he's just like not he's not nearly as able to beat guys 1v1. He can beat them inside a little bit. It's I think it's an option, but I wouldn't do it. I can't go for a walk. I have a torn ACL, bro. I'm on crutches. Don't hate on me because I'm crippled. I would love to go for a walk. It is beautiful outside. I would love to go for a walk through my lovely neighborhood, and I can't. I cannot. I physically can't. Uh, so here we are. That is of us. What other wing? What other? Somebody said Malik Tillman. I hate the Eredivisie. I would never recruit guys from the Eredivisie. I just don't do it. But the production is legit. I also think he's like more like 8'10", more 8'10" than he is winger. But Eredivisie makes me nervous. I just wouldn't touch any of those guys. Just not the one for me. And I think like you need a legit like winger for this role. The one we haven't talked about is Bino Gittins, who. Sorry, I keep bumping my mic when I go to type, and I'm sure you guys get a nice like thud in your ears. I don't like Bino Gittins. I'm gonna start there. His shot selection is atrocious. His dribbling is very good, but it's much more transitional open space than it is like drive past a guy in a low block. You know what I mean? That is kind of where I start for him. Is like I don't know. He's dropped the Bino. All right, Jamie Gittins. I'm a hyphenated last name man myself, so I like to keep the hyphens. But if he's dropped it, we're cool. I think there's something there. I could be talked into this deal. Like if, for example, the deal for him is 50. If you could say to Dortmund, listen, we're not paying 50, but we would pay something like 35 or 40. But we know you want Chukwuemeka, and you won't pay more than 20 for Carney. I would do something like Carney plus 10 million. And let's call it 40 and 50 for the Pluvalenza. I would do something like that. I would do something like Carney and 10 million, Carney and 15 million for Gittins. but I would not pay like 50 up front for him. But I think there's something there. Like I think the shot selection stuff you can teach. You can teach. And Dortmund were not very good this year, so like I think some of that stuff will come back in terms of the improvement of his chance creation. You could do a lot worse. It's not a deal I would do, but you could do a lot worse. Nico Williams. Again, Nico is like similar. The attacking value is better. The dribbling stuff is better. He's worse defensively than all these guys. This is the problem with Nico. Because he's at Bilbao, he makes a huge amount of money because he's Basque, and you're just not getting him for anything other than the full clause and the full wages. It's not happening. You're just not doing it. And like this is kind of what he is. Like he's just consistently a 0.4, 0.5 guy. So like I'm not doing that. Jeeb asks about Doku. Callum Walsh says Doku. Bad Rabbits brings up Grealish. I would totally test the waters on Doku. I would 100,000,000,000% just be like, hey, listen, we know you don't like Pep. Nah, we don't like Pep that much. We don't like Pep. Why? What do you think? Would you come over? Would you think about it? Because like you look at this, and this is like Sancho on steroids. Like it is. So here, let's have a look. See, I was gonna point at my screen like you could see my finger. Okay, 18 progressive passes received, 11 box touches, 6 successful take-ons, 13 progressive carries. Okay, that's really good. 5 shot creating actions, 0.3 expected goals. That's awesome. It's very good. Take a look at Sancho, who's also very good at these things. 11, not 17. 6, not 10. 2.5, not 6. 5, not 11. 3.5, not 4.5. Like he would really be like souped up Sancho. And the shots, there's no shots there. He is purely like Doku is standing on the sideline with like a backpack on, like waiting for the school bus, and the school bus is the ball from Cole Palmer or Enzo Fernandez, and then he gets it, and he's like, all right, my time to shine. And he just passed every fullback in the league, square for Delap and Jackson and all these guys, and score and Cole Palmer, whatever. Like that is, I would love Doku. I would be so down. He makes a lot of money. He definitely makes more than that. Don't care. I would totally call City and be like, hey, he didn't play that much. Any of our guys interesting to you? Like, let's do it. I would be so down. I would be so down. So down. 1,000,000,000% down for Doku. Grealish, on the other hand, as Bad Rabbits brought up, I think Grealish is like pretty cooked physically. He also makes way too much money, but I think he's like extremely cooked physically. I think he could do that similar role, but he's worse defensively. He is has had a lot of problems with his calves. It's 2 seasons in a row now where he hasn't really played. I think like you just wouldn't do it. Just wouldn't do it. 65 million we can get it for Doku. I bet you could do Doku for what City paid. I think you could just get them off of it, and he would take more money and be happy to go. I think you could probably do it. I'd be so into Doku. Doku is like would be the one I would do. And I brought this up before, but it's like a weird one to do where like City maybe don't love to sell to other Premier League teams, and unless they want to get rid of the player, and I don't think there's like a convenient pluvalenza between the two teams, unless it was like, I don't know, one of the center backs maybe. Like, could they be into one of the center backs? Could they be into one of the goalkeepers with Ederson? Like, hey, we'll do Bob for Doku. Straight up. You can sell Ederson to Saudi. We'll do him straight up. We'll be nice. So we'll see. I think that's one that's there. After taking such a massive L on Palmer, it might be hard to buy from City. New administration, though. Cheeky Bagheera stain is gone, and it's Hugo Viana now. Different admin. Kudus. I'm out on Kudus. One, because he's going to be way too expensive. He has a massive release clause. He also has Saudi interest. So you have, like, this is the thing. You got to be careful with guys who have Saudi interest because, like, their wage asks are going to be huge. I think a lot of this production stuff would go up. I really liked Kudus when he left Ajax. I thought that would have been an interesting signing for us, but I don't think I would do that deal. Another one that I like a lot, but he's the wrong side, is Edin Zagrova. I think he is like a spectacular dribble, but it's the wrong side. And the other one said is that a lot of people have said before we move on to strikers, because we haven't even talked about strikers and we'll be going for an hour and 40 minutes, is Morgan Rogers. The Morgan Rogers one is, again, I look at and I'm like, he's a tweener, like winger 10-9-ish guy. And I just think he'd cost too much, and I don't think he like fills the need clearly enough. Somebody else brought up Rashford. I'm out. He doesn't defend enough. He makes too much money. I don't know. I don't think I would do that on this one. People are talking about Capology wages. Some of them are accurate from what I know. Like, there are ones I know are accurate, but there are also ones I know are inaccurate. So I would bet you that player to player there's quite a bit of noise, but for teams they're pretty close on average, would be my guess. I know they are very bad at capturing players who are heavily incentivized through add-ons. And they're very bad at like and like appearances. So like Osimhen is at 100, okay? But that's what Galatasaray are paying. Napoli are paying a huge chunk of the rest. So even if I go look at his Napoli wages, that's whatever. So if I go look at like if I go to Napoli and go to their wages, Napoli previous season wages, and I go look at Victor Osimhen, so he's like 250,000 euros. Osimhen makes actually closer to 350,000 euros because his contract is a base wage of like some number, and then he has a very significant appearance fee just for playing at all. He gets like 40 grand. He gets another 40 grand if he is available for selection. So even if he doesn't play, he gets a huge chunk. Because he's like, no, I'm not. He's like, I want my appearance fee either way. And so if he's available and he plays, he gets an even bigger chunk. And it's like, and then there's goal bonuses and blah, 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 blah. Like it's very difficult to do. Very difficult to do. So that one's tough. Which Premier League teams are in PSR holes? Villa, Everton, Newcastle are probably pretty tight. Forest are probably going to be pretty tight. That might be it. Chelsea are fine. United will probably be pretty tight if they try and spend this summer. What else? Yeah, that's probably the only ones. Let's finish this off. Let's move on to the strikers, and then we can talk about whatever we want. Strikers. Jackson is staying. I know some people don't like him. He's staying. Guiu is going out on loan to Ipswich. I don't really care what happens with Fofana. I think Fofana is legit good. I think he's better than playing in Turkey. They'll probably sell him for a small loss, but I would keep him, or I wouldn't hate like loaning him. I would move on from Armando Broja. I would move on from David Washington. I don't think he's worth the loan signing. And that's where I would be at for the strikers. Obviously, Chelsea have already signed Liam Delap. I would not be opposed to signing another one. I would not do it. But this is how I would run my strikers for the year. Is Jackson would be my guy. Delap would play a lot. And Mahuka would get legit looks. And that would be my team up top for the year. And that's where I would be with the striker. Wait, Jackson confirmed staying. Is that ITK Kieran? No, these are my choices, Laksha. This is what I would choose to do. And there's there are some considerations for like Tosin. I would choose to move on for Tosin, but I think it's extremely unlikely um, that they choose to move him on. So like I put him there. Ellie Sherman, 280 minutes for Fofana and Turkey Grim. Yeah, he tore his quad though. He ripped the quad off of his bone, is what I heard. So yeah, did like a pretty nasty surgery. Uh, Luca, DDF remontada. If DDF has a million fans, I'm one of them. Bro, my favorite thing about Dutch Fofana is like I watched so much video on that guy, and I was like, he's really good. Like 10 million is a very good fee. I think Chelsea are going to sell him for 40 million. And then he played the first season. I was like, this guy's good every time he plays. And then Lampard came in and was like, you're not playing ever again. I'm never playing you anymore. And they played Aubameyang instead. And then he went to Burnley. He looked really good at Burnley, but apparently was a huge dickhead behind the scenes. Apparently had a bad time in Germany. It is what it is. Dominic Mom asked about Mosquera at Valencia. I think it's an interesting one. I think the thing that I get hung up on is he is not very good in the air, and he's not good enough in possession to justify being not good in the air. He's so good into the channels. My guess is he will. I've heard whispers about Germany, about Leipzig, because Valencia are like kind of cooked financially, so he might go Leipzig or something like that. And like maybe he plays in a 3 or he goes Leverkusen or something like that. But that I think it's an interesting player, but I don't think it's the one for Chelsea. We talked a lot about center backs earlier. Zowa, they'll probably move Tosin if you can get another overage runner free. Yeah, one I would have been quite interested in if it was possible, but he's done another deal somewhere else. Is Jonathan Tah? He's going to Bayern. But he's right-footed. He is massive. He can pass the ball. He like has captained them for a long time. He plays a lot. Like I would be very happy with Ta on a free, but that he's gone to Bayern, so that deal is off the table. Mario Gila at Lazio has come up. Allegedly, like people are calling this guy like a stats pick, because he passes the ball a lot. I'm just like I don't feel that he doesn't feel very good to me when I watch him. Like it's a lot of farming passes to wide players instead of like line breakers. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It is what it is. Callum Walsh, I'm a huge Academy fan, but I don't like Mahuka up top. Mayuka up top feels more like an inside forward to me. I think actually Mayuka is like very Aguero, like stocky, strong, uses his body really well. I don't think he'll be a wide player. I think he'll have to lean much more into bulking out and being a 9. Somebody brought up Datsun Sapayev or whatever. Is that I can't remember how you spell it as well. Yeah, Dastan Satpayev, who like I've been watching clips of him in Kazakhstan because he's like leading the Kazakh league in goals, and he is also very Aguero, where he's just like stocky, turns, smashes everything. Like it's just like that build of like shorter legs but pretty stocky, and you can like hold guys off and you just crank the ball. That I think is like a pretty fun archetype. But this is what my squad would be. So you look at this now. This is 23 players in the squad. That's too small of a squad to run for Champions League. Chelsea played 29 this year in all comps. I think in the Premier League actually they played 29 because you have guys like Cassidy who played a little bit, and Felix and Nkunku, and those guys were all gone. And that's 29 including the winger and the fullback bye. So I think you look at it and like that's probably too small a squad. I suspect that there will either be, and this is what I want to talk about at the end, is like there's going to be guys in here who stay because you're not going to be able to move. Like you're realistically not going to be able to move Sterling and Felix and Dewsbury Hall and all the like you're just not going to be able to move all of them. And so there's some guys that can stay there. And Callum Walsh says there's not enough goals in that squad, IMO. And I agree. And that's why instead of Delap, I would have gone and bought Ekitike or Osimhen, who I think are 15 goals better than Delap. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, yeah, you could probably get there. You could probably get there on goals. And it depends who your left winger is, right? Like if you get Barcola and he's like a 9 goal a year guy, like that does feel like a pretty big upgrade. And you look at like how many goals does Santos give you from midfield? How many goals do you get from these guys? How many goals do you get from the set pieces probably being slightly better the next year? Like to me, for Chelsea to get like 80 points, they probably have to be 20 goals better, right? That's probably like Chelsea were if I go to the Premier League, Chelsea were a plus 22 goal difference team, I think. Yeah, plus 21 goal difference. And 35 is 75. Like roughly every goal difference is about 2/3 of a point. So if you go 20, you get like 12 points better. So you'd be like about 80 points. If you need 20 goals, I think you're talking like going from 44 conceded to like 37, and you're going from, or 38, and you're going from 64 goals for to like 80 goals for. That I think is the tough one. Callum Walsh brought up Cherky, because we did not talk about Cherky today. So Cherky's like another one. Actually, then there's Spurs -1 GD being in 17th place. Yeah, and like you look at their spectacle difference too. Like Spurs were way better than the bottom of the table. Same with United. Like both of those teams are very unlucky to be as low as they were. It's also a very unusual year because the bottom 3 teams are so bad that like all the expected goal differences are messed up because even like Wolves and West Ham just beat the brakes off of these guys. So it is kind of a weird one. On Cherky's probably going to City. I don't think it's a here we go yet, but I think it's like there. I really like Cherky. I really wanted him last summer. I would have taken him this year. I think you could get away with him playing as a winger if you played an overlapping fullback. I think it would be pretty hard to accommodate him and Palmer as wingers, but you could do it. I wanted Cherky as a like, you are what Felix was this year. You come off the bench, you unlock games, you rotate against weaker teams, blah, 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 blah. And you have a free roll and you do whatever you want to create amazing things for everybody. I think Cherky is very good at that. I think he's an excellent player. Didn't happen. It is what it is. And that's where we are. Somebody asked, did we talk about Branthwaite? We did talk about Branthwaite, and the my opinion is that I don't think Branthwaite is sufficiently better, if at all, than Badiashile to spend a tremendous amount of money on him. He's very large, but I don't think he's that much better, and I just wouldn't do it. Doesn't Cherky have the same underlying problems as Felix with attitude? I don't think so. I think there's like some implications about his attitude that are not super true, is how I will phrase that. Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah. Walsh asked about Wirtz. Florian Wirtz. Branthwaite mugged by Cork City's own Jacob Bryant. Fun fact, I lived in Cork, not actually Cork, but just south of Cork for like 2 years as a child. I was a Cove Ramblers fan as a child. The club that Stephen Ireland and Roy Keane played for. I played for Cove Ramblers youth as a child. So I'm very familiar with Cork City's own Jacob Bryant. Yeah. Blah, 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 blah. So Wirtz. So like Wirtz is obviously very good, right? Like he is exceptional at progressing the ball forward. He creates a lot of shots. He takes a lot of shots. There's a lot of value there. He's a very, very, very good player. In fact, if he was not 130 million euros and also like only particularly interested in Bayern and Liverpool, I would be like, hey, what about him as a left winger? That could be a really fun thing. However, what I'm going to say is this. It's the Bundesliga. He does not play that many games. Like 26 out of 34 is like fine. And he played most of the Champions League. Like it's good. He also already has an ACL at 22, which is okay. It seems like he's come back from it fine. And I'm like, ew, it's a lot of. I just get a little nervous, right? Like, yeah, he puts up 22 2 years in a row, but he puts it up on 15 and 13. Do I think that's real? Maybe. Do I think he's excellent? Yes. Do I think he is 130 million euros excellent? No, maybe not. But I think he's very good. I think he's a little bit. Walsh says he's so tiny. I think he's like strong though. No, I think Wirtz is very good. I'd be a little nervous at that price. And maybe Liverpool don't care. Maybe they're like, we have so much money, who cares? I don't care. Andy asked about Ekitike. I like Ekitike a lot. He'd be my number one. He'd be my number one striker target, but clearly that's not happening. Sherman, you could get 2.5 João Felixes for the cost of Wirtz. Imagine if you could play with 2.5 João Felixes in place of him, though. Radish. I don't know if this is like a name like radish or if it's like the vegetable radish. Like you just really like radishes. Yeah, Ekitike is so fun, man. He's ridiculous. I'm also surprised we didn't see more Retegui buzz for Chelsea. But is Delap's aerial ability good enough to make a significant difference for us in next season? I will give you a little teaser. We'll do it on stream, too. No, because when I show video on stream, it always looks bad. I have all the video cut, and I have all the data there. Delap is very good in the air. He has 51% win rate. That is because they hoof the ball to him with nobody nearby, and he's just like got to go up and get it against Jake O'Brien 17 times a game because Ipswich were horrible. Horrible. Lukey, you could get 104 million Fredos for the cost of one João Felix, and honestly, I'd take the chocolate. Can you imagine? You could put 104 million Fredos and block the entire goal, and you would never concede again. You could melt it down into one super Fredo to block the entire goal. And it would just it would be a wall of João Felix worth chocolate. You could do that. He's very good in the air. He is particularly good attacking crosses. I think that will be legitimately valuable. And also very under disgusting that I think is really, really fun is he wins so many fouls, and Chiba Football leaps like a dolphin out of water. Don't like his jumping though. It is so funny to watch this guy win fouls. He is like a master performer of just the slightest touch, and it's like, oh no. And because he's a big, pretty strong guy, he wins so many fouls, and he just it's like he loses the ability to walk as soon as he gets a little bit of pressure from behind him. He's very, very good at winning free kicks. And I think that'll be valuable. The other stuff, I'm not going to lie to you, is pretty negative. The video is not very good, and the data is worse. But I think he does some things that are useful, and I think given his cost, it's a pretty low-risk move. I think at worst, you'll be able to get your money back after 2 years. I think that's fine. On why do I think Ekitike won't happen? I actually don't. I don't think Ekitike won't happen. I think it could happen. I would probably lean that it won't, but I don't feel very strongly. I don't feel very strongly that it would. That it would not, rather. It could. It could happen. Andy, are you buying the notion we get distracted? I think it's very possible. I think it's very possible. I've heard a lot of buzz, and like I can just see worlds where they're like, "Hey, Gia's gonna go on loan. Mayuka's probably gonna go on loan and isn't ready. Jackson can't play the whole season. We're gonna have a ton of games. Like even if you think about, oh man, I just like tweaked my knee kind of weird. If you think about if you think about like Club World Cup could be 7 games. So if you include the Club World Cup as part of next season, which like in my head, Club World Cup has always been part of 25, 26, not 24, 25. And then you say 7 games, 38 Premier League is 45. And then you have the 2 cups, which average 3 to 5 games each. So call it like 7 total. You're at 52. And then you have 8 in the Champions League is 60. And then if you have a knockout, it's 62 and 64 and 66. Like it's 60 games. It's so many games. And I think the very, very clear thing is like you need 60 games of striker minutes is like 5,400 striker minutes. 5,400 striker minutes is a very simple multiplication. I don't know why I had so much trouble with that. 5,400 striker minutes is a lot of striker minutes. You like 2 guys, like so Jackson times 2 did not play 54 90s this year. I think actually Jackson times 2 played exactly 53 90s. So like it's a lot of games, man. So 2 Jacksons plays exactly all the striker minutes. Like, yeah, sure. What happens if one of those Jackson gets hurt? The other one's going to play 45 90s. Like, it's very difficult. So I look at it and I say, it's not the worst. Especially then if you say, we're not going to buy a left winger. Jackson's going to play 12 left winger 90s or whatever it is. I think that gives you some optionality. But like you look at this season, like Neto played a lot of games as a 9. Tyreek George played a lot of games as a 9. Cole Palmer played a lot of minutes as a 9. Like I just don't know. I don't know about that one. How was Ekitike last season and the season before? I really like Ekitike. He's very shifty. He creates a lot of shots for himself and for others. He's a very good presser. He brings long balls, hoof balls out of the air really well. Seb wrote some good stuff on Ekitike that I think is like very high quality, even going back all the way to his Reims stuff, Stade de Reims, that is very, very good. I think he is a genuinely excellent player. Like I would be if Chelsea did both, I'd be like, yeah, cool, and let's figure it out. We'll figure it out later. It's fine. Chiba says it's like an Olise situation. Look, guys, we tried for this guy who's about to explode. Olise, I've said this on stream before. People who come pretty often have heard this. Like Chelsea were very close on Olise. The deal was done. They tried to shove Chalobah in instead of paying money at the end. That's what got him. 25 million and Tosin for Nathan Collins. No. Imagine the state of Cucurella if we don't get another left back. Yes. Do we go tickle wolves about Ait Nouri? No, not interested. A player that I was interested if Wolves went down with Strand Larsen because he's very large and he scores a decent amount of goals for a terrible team. I would have been pretty interested in that one as like a backup option. Like if you, let's say you didn't get the lap, but let's say you got Strand Larsen for 18 million and you got Ekitike. I'd be like, yep, done. There's your striker core. You're good. Happy days. Move on. Thoughts on Ekitike's poor XG conversion. So here's the thing. If you look at just this season, you're like, yeah, 15 from 22. That's pretty bad. Like this guy's a bad finisher. When you look at his whole career, he is 32 for 34 here. When you include Cups and Europa League, he is like 40 for 38 or something like that. Like he's basically perfectly in line. So you look and you're like, okay, across, I don't know, 100 games, he's perfectly in line. He's taken, like you can be pretty confident when a player hits 300 shots where they are. About like how stable they are. 300 shots is like a good number for conversion for like the regression of their their total shooting for the year. Like you look like, yeah, +3, +2, -7, like it all kind of comes out in the wash. And so after 300 shots, he's like about average. And then you watch, and like the guy strikes the ball really well with both feet. He could be better with his head, but he's not bad. And he's quite good at creating separation for his shots. And I'm like, yeah, like I'm cool with it. Like I don't think the finishing is nearly an issue. I think it's just a thing that happened. Like the same way, like I'll probably get hammered for this. I said exactly the same thing about Jackson last year, where I said, Jackson had a bad finishing year, and he was 5 goals behind his XG, but he was 5 goals ahead of his XG in Spain. Like, what do I make of that? And so, like, you look at it and you're like, okay, Jackson is now -4 from 40, so he's 36 for 40, and you're like, okay, could be worse. When you add Conference League in, he's a little bit better, and when you add the cups in, he's a little bit better. Like, he's only like, I think Jackson is like 2.5 goals behind his XG from like 41. Like, he's not nearly as bad as people would think he is. But it's like, okay, that's an interesting thought. What are your thoughts on people in the media using stats like shot conversion and declaring a striker worrisome for underperforming XG? Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this a lot across the pod and earlier in the year, that like, first off, conversion rate is ridiculous. Like, doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's the same when people look at save percentage for goalkeepers. Like, it actually doesn't mean anything. Like, you can have a good save percentage because your team lets 1,000 shots from range and none of them are very good. Or you could have a terrible save percentage because, like, your team only gives huge every chance is a 0.5 XG chance. You have a 60% save percentage. You're the worst goalkeeper in the league, but actually you're way ahead of your XG, right? So it's like a weird thing. I think stats literacy is improving in the media and in social media. I think it is generally quite low. Like, I think people understand what XG means, but I think people are bad at using it for looking at other things. I think people don't really think probabilistically. But it is getting better. And like, I think about this podcast where like we are talking about binomial distributions, and we're talking about like chaining probabilities, and we're talking about like how to build expected goals models or possession value models and all this stuff. And like, people are into it. Like, to be transparent, like the views, and like, we have 91 people watching today right now. It was up to 115 earlier. We have 91 people watching right now on a day that Chelsea don't play, and there's nothing going on until the Champions League final in the summer, and people are like listening to us talk about XG, and like even like United fans are coming and listening to me say all their players are shit to talk about XG the whole time. Like, it is, the appetite for it is growing in there. So like, I'm not worried, but I think it's interesting. Luca, please no Gyökeres. I don't think that's going to be one to happen. I think Ekitike is not worth the hassle of a bidding war, and paying 90 plus should be prioritizing that funds on a left winger. Yeah, I think that's a valid. If you said you can have one of Barcola and Ekitike for 80 million, I would pick Barcola for sure. Because the other thing to keep in mind for Ekitike, and again, to go back to wages and capology, Hugo Ekitike makes 67,000 euros. And you say, that's interesting. I got to check my years to make sure I go back to the right year. 23-24 PSG. So I'm like, cool. 67,000. Hugo Ekitike was making double that. And PSG are paying half of his wages still at Frankfurt. Because generally players don't just walk away from that money. So like, Chelsea are going to pay him 180K or something like that. Like, it's going to be a lot. Someone else pointing this out, is the market bad enough you hold back on spending big? Maybe. I wouldn't hate it. But I wouldn't buy anyone then. and I would buy Sancho and keep him for a year and then figure it out in a year, or I'd keep George and figure it out in a year. That's kind of where I would start from. Alicia, welcome Tierno Barry 2027. Yeah, Tierno Barry is fun guy. Spending 50 million, you did miss it, Ahmed Abducator. 50 million on Gittins is too much. It's too much. But if you could do a Plu Valenza Carney for Gittins, I could be less mad. Why is no one in on Gyökeres? He wants a tremendous amount of money. The fee is pretty big, and he's already 27, so you're only getting one contract out of him. Thoughts on Sesko to Arsenal? I feel like they should have bought Ekitike. I think that was an Arteta winning a battle with Berta thing. I think that's tough. Like, market stuff makes sense, but the squad just doesn't have enough quality. Again, it depends what you mean for not enough quality. Do they have enough quality to win a knockout round in the Champions League and make Champions League again? I think with the business they're going to do, they will. And then the thing that Chelsea have this like weird actually, you're in the Bay, so like I'll make this reference. So like the Golden State Warriors had all their old guys who were amazing. And then they drafted James Wiseman, Jonathan Kuminga, and Moses Moody. And Joel Lacob, who was the owner of the Golden State Warriors, talked about two timelines, all the time, two timelines. And they had this thing where like they had to develop these young guys at the same time as being good. And you have to make all these weird decisions of like Chelsea should go buy this player and this player and this player because like objectively they need someone to fill that role to be good now. But you have this like lingering specter in the background of like, well, what's Esteval going to be? Because we're talking about Chelsea need a left winger, right? Like Chelsea need this left winger to be good. And like I look at Esteval, I'm working on the data for him. I'm going to do the video, talk about what it is, what I think I can project his first season to be based on how much I think he's going to play and blah, 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 all of that stuff. And then, but like, I could be way wrong and he could be much better than anticipated quicker. And all of a sudden, like, now you have like too many wingers because he's very good. And you're like, I don't really know what to do with this. And that's a good problem to have. And I'd much rather have that problem than the problem of like you don't buy anyone because you hope he's going to be really good. And then he's not really good. And now you're like, oh man, now we're toast. So it is a fair point to make, but it is something that you have to be pretty cognizant of like the whole point of this is like for example, Andre Santos, like I'm sure Chelsea could have bought a center midfielder last summer. And we're like, yeah, but this guy's not going to be better than Santos. And then Santos is going to come in next year. So I don't know. I do wonder if, Laksha, before you were talking, the big name that I had was Doku. I would go get Doku from City. Barcola bench for Doué, Champions League final. See, call his agent after the game. We would never bench you in the Champions League final, Bradley. Never. I think I think you can. I would be pretty interested to see if you could find like a clever loan for a winger. I don't know who falls into that bracket, but I wonder if you could find it. Like, you know who I would be pretty interested in checking for? Like, I would be, for 1 year, I would overpay for a loan for Rafael Leao. Like, I would call Milan and say, hey, we'll pay like 15 million. We'll pay 15 million for a loan, and we'll pay his full wages. So it's like expensive. Like he's almost like he's like 25 million amortization cost at that point. Like it's a big deal. But I would pay that whole thing and have a reasonable purchase option on the other side of it. Like an 80 million purchase option or something. Cuz like they'd probably want 100 for him. You say 15 is paying some of it up front. He's a year older, contract's a year later, whatever. And then C, because then you get the benefit of 1, was Leao good for us? 2, did he like actually try to defend a little bit? And 3, you get to look at it and say, well, how much better than Estevao is he now? Or like, actually, there's another winger we like on the market more, or blah, 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 blah. I think that could actually be like a really clever way to, I think that would be a really clever way to explore that concept. But I don't think any of the other wingers are really options there. Because like you're not going to get that for Bilbao. Like Bilbao either want the full fee for Nico Williams, for example. Like they're either getting the whole fee, or he's not moving. Like that's the two. Ferran Torres from Barca, like maybe another one. He's played striker mostly this season, if I recall correctly. But Ferran Torres, he was like pretty good at City. I'd be like pretty curious about that guy as a player. Kfara Dembele Doué. Yeah, like it's tough. It's tough. Somebody asked, I've only clocked George Phil. I would like George to go to Strasbourg, but I'm not particularly picky. Or like Holland. He'll score a ton of goals in the Netherlands. Deciding which clubs we should send the loan army out to, respectively, should have a lot more thought put into it than previous windows. Yeah, like this is the thing. It's like I have these 7 loanees here, right? I think Chelsea can actually only loan out 6 now. I think that's the FIFA rule for this year. 6 internationally, unlimited domestically. But then, like, you have a whole bunch of guys who aren't on here. Like, what are you doing with Alfie Gilchrist? What are you going to do with Kiana Dyer, who allegedly may be off? What are you going to do with Shimeuka in January? What are you going to do with blah, 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 blah? So it's hard. It's hard to balance, I think. That's tough. Okay, get your last questions in. While we do that, I have all the data and the video for Delap. I'm going to record it probably today or tomorrow morning. It's going to go out Monday. And then after that, there will probably be nothing at least until the next weekend, unless you want me rambling on Oxy, which would be pretty funny, actually. But that is the plan. So go watch this Monday. I think it's pretty good. And we'll go from there. Lord Flacco, predictions on the UCL final. PSG win 2-0. But I would like Inter to win because I like Inter as a team. They're very fun. And I want Simone Inzaghi to immediately leave for Saudi Arabia. And then I want to go get, if I was to go buy a center back, I would be decently curious about Jan Bisek, who is very large and very fast and very dribbly. And I would be pretty interested in doing that deal. I'm not in love with it. I wouldn't pay a huge fee to do it, but I definitely think about it. A thing I've often wondered about how much the player outcome really depends on the environment too. Rafinha's amazing, but I don't think he could become this good at Chelsea. Yeah, context is huge, man. Like when we talk about like player translation and the environment, like, so think about, okay, so like actually Delap is probably like a good example. If I look at Delap and like, let's just like, this is a kind of ridiculous comparison to Rafinha, who may win the Ballon d'Or. Delap played 2 seasons for PL2 Man City, who were very good. They were the best team in the league by a lot. He scored 1 million goals. And you watch the video, and this guy looks like peak Lewandowski. He looks unbelievable. And then he goes to the championship and plays for like actively bad teams. Hull were not that bad, but actively bad teams. He goes to Ipswich, plays for actively bad teams. And all of the things he was doing for Man City, he no longer does. He doesn't take any shots. He doesn't connect things around the box anymore. He like, the best things he does are all like drifting out into the channel to like drive into spaces. He like doesn't create anything for anybody else. And he like is wrestling people to win flick-ons. And like, that's the best part of his game. And like a lot of that is because the teams he's playing for just had zero ability to generate offense. You look at even his shot quality. He takes lots of shots, but he doesn't shoot from outside the box anymore. This is gonna open. Let me find it. Dimitri sent me this. Oh, okay, I can do this. Dimitri sent me this for whatever. Like, look at how terrible the shot profile is as soon as he goes back to like a terrible team. Like, this is not what it looks like at Man City, to be clear. So I just think you have to be very careful about like how you consider context when you're evaluating players, and it's extremely, extremely important. Like, even for Esteval has played predominantly on the right. He's going to come to Chelsea. He's going to play a decent number of minutes on the left. You have to think about that. For sure. Have my views changed since the I don't like Chelsea much right now video last summer? That's a good question. And I'm very surprised like nobody else has called me on that. Some things yes, some things no. Like, my big gripe last summer was that Chelsea were nuking a lot of the guys who'd been here for a long time, and they weren't getting better than that. And the recruitment still sucked. And they didn't feel like very likable as a team. Like, I think that the line I said was, you either have to be good, you have to be likable, or you have to embody my values. And that they did none of those three. And they ended up being like good. So I think that's true. I don't think this team ever got very likable. I don't think I ended up disliking them as much as others. But I don't think they ever ended up being likable. I do think what one of the nice changes was at the end of the season, I thought that they were significantly more aligned with my values, like digging deep to win all those games at the end and like defend and hard nose and like celebrate your wins. I like that. That's a bit of me. So I think some. I don't think hugely. I think the bigger picture club stuff around recruitment and around like they put the new season tickets out, they're 7% higher. You can't sell away tickets. There's now a 25% discount for 20 to 22-year-olds, which I like. There's now an increased membership cost, which gives you priority access to tickets. Like, I look at stuff like that and I'm like, ugh. I don't know about that. So we'll see. But like, Chaloba's back. That I think like was a win, not just like punting him for no reason. I think they did a lot of things that I didn't like to get through FFP, and now they're through, and I hope that there are less of them. That's how I'll describe it. Anyways, I'm gonna wrap it up there. Enjoy the Champions League final. Watch the Delap video on Monday, and we'll call it. We'll call it there. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for keeping me not bored on this Saturday morning. And let's see what happens from here. As always, enjoy the soccer. I'm going to give you a second so the stream doesn't cut off because I know I'm ahead of you.